Have you ever wondered what your life would be like if you left everything behind and became a digital nomad? I'm Iris and I have lived in 8 different countries over the past 3 years, and in this video I will explain how you can become a digital nomad as well and spill all the tea about what I did wrong so you don't have to make the same mistakes. Let's have a little chit chat. I've got my coffee here. Feel free to grab your own. I wrote down a bunch of notes about all the things I want to touch upon, and I already have a feeling this is going to be a long video, so I'll try to keep it as short as possible. But if you guys have any questions about specific topics or you'd like me to go into more detail, please let me know in the comment section and I'll happily answer your questions. I will also add the timestamps to all the different topics I will cover in this video down below, so if you're only interested in 1 or 2 parts, you can skip the rest. Whether you've been interested in becoming a digital nomad for a while, or if you're just a little curious about this type of lifestyle, you're probably wondering, how does all of this work? It all sounds so complicated. You might be a little scared, especially if you're thinking about doing this on your own. I've got you. I started my journey as a digital nomad pretty much exactly 3 years ago. I was honestly sick and tired of the cold and rainy climate in Switzerland. I desperately needed to get out of there for a couple months, so I quit my job and went to Spain for the summer. Eventually, I was able to land a job at a completely remote company based in the US, which allowed me to work from anywhere in the world. And from then on, I was essentially free to choose when I wanted to be home to spend time with my friends and family and when I wanted to be traveling. Landing a remote job completely changed my life in ways I never thought were possible. Being location independent is completely different from the regular 9-to-5 office jobs I was used to and thought I would spend the rest of my life doing. Quitting my stable job to go traveling and hopefully finding a remote job along the way was definitely one of the scariest things I've ever done. But I'm so happy I took the leap, and now I couldn't imagine my life without this type of freedom anymore. Obviously, you don't need to go and leave your home country before you find a remote job. I actually recommend you do it the other way around. My story is just one example of 100 different ways to do it. Whenever some of my friends ask me how they can become digital nomads as well, I always tell them the same few things I'm going to share with you guys today. So without further ado, let's get into it. Is it expensive to become a digital nomad? It doesn't have to be expensive, but that depends a little bit on which countries you choose to visit, and it also depends on where you're from. If you're lucky enough to currently live in a country with a strong currency, being a digital nomad can actually be less expensive for you than living in your home country. Again, depending on where you want to go. If that is not the case for you, what you could do is apply to work for a remote company that is located in a high-paying country, which makes up for your higher cost of living if you decide to go spend a few months in a more expensive country. And I will get into how to find a remote job in a minute. The point I'm trying to make is it all depends on which country you're planning to travel to. Obviously, it's going to be more expensive if you decide you want to live in Paris for half a year than if you went to Southeast Asia instead. Do you really need to sell all of your stuff and leave everything behind? You absolutely don't need to sell your apartment and everything you have just to go all in on digital nomading. You don't even know if you like it yet, you have to try it first. But even then, you might still want to have a home base you can get back to whenever you want, or if you need a little break, you can decide what type of digital nomad you want to be. Some people like to spend their summers at home and live somewhere else during the cold winter months. It's not all or nothing. The whole point of this is to give you the freedom to choose your location based on your wants and needs. It also depends on your budget, if you can afford to rent 2 places at the same time. Maybe you want to rent out your apartment during the time you're not there to minimize costs. It's all up to you. What types of remote jobs can you do and where do you find them? I used to work as a software engineer for a completely remote company, and I know people usually associate digital nomads with jobs in tech. However, you don't need to be a programmer or a data analyst to land a remote job. If you are, awesome, and I'll show you where to apply for a remote job in a second. But if you're not, that's totally fine. There's plenty of other jobs you can do remotely as well. Remote companies need to fill all of their positions, which include customer care, administrative work, human resources, personal assistants. 2 friends of mine even used to work as travel agents for a remote company. So you might not necessarily need to change your career in order to land a remote job. If this is a field you're currently working in, you could do this remotely as well. If you're just starting out, if you have no experience, or you want to change careers, here are a few highly sought after skills that are currently in demand which you could get into. These are amazing options, especially if you're a little bit more on the creative side. There are so many resources and online courses nowadays which will help you gain these skills and transition into a remote career. If you're interested in doing an online course, I would recommend Course Careers. They offer great certifications which you can do from home and at your own speed. If you want to go check them out, you can find them linked below. If you want to start traveling right away and gain new skills and look for jobs along the way, I recommend you have at least a couple months worth of living expenses saved, just so you don't have too much pressure to find a job right away. Okay, now that is all nice to know, but where do you actually find remote job postings? Here are my favorite websites for remote jobs, which I also used for my own job search. If you want, you can take a screenshot, but I will also list all of them below in the description box. I filmed a whole separate video about how to find remote jobs recently. If you want to hear more about this topic in great detail, you can either click here or you'll find the video link below as well. How do you pay taxes as a digital nomad? I'm not a tax advisor and I don't feel qualified to give anyone tax advice, so please make sure to double check with a professional before you start your own digital nomad journey. I can only tell you about my situation. I pay taxes in my home country. The remote company I used to work for is based in the US and they hired me as a contractor. To be able to do that, I had to set up my own company in Switzerland, which is where I'm based, and then every month I would write an invoice to the company in the US and they would pay my company in Switzerland for the hours I worked for them. There are a lot of digital nomads who move their residency to a country with lower taxes, but it depends a little bit on where you're from and where you want to move to figure out to what extent that makes sense. For example, if you are from the US, no matter where in the world you live, as long as you hold a US passport, you will have to pay at least part of your taxes in the US. You should always double check what the rules and regulations of your country are. Go talk to a tax advisor in your area. It's honestly not as scary as it sounds. They will be able to give you all the information you need, and they can also help you figure out what exactly you need to do. How to make friends as a digital nomad. You can meet other remote workers at co-working spaces, through online groups, or you can look up digital nomad meetups in your city and join. It's nice to have digital nomad friends because you can meet up with them in other countries or even travel together. When you start your digital nomad journey, I recommend you go to one of the digital nomad hubs first, aka a place that's very popular with digital nomads, where it's easier for you to connect with people, just for you to make a few friends and understand how the nomadic life works. You will learn how other people go about it, which will in turn help you to make future decisions. Here are some of the popular digital nomad destinations in which it's very easy to make friends and become part of the community. I have to say though that I'm not the biggest fan of Bali. In my opinion, the towns that are popular with digital nomads are just way too overcrowded. It's not a bad place, but for me personally, it's a little bit too overhyped. On top of that, I also felt like the tourists didn't show a lot of respect towards the locals and their culture. If you want to go there, by all means, go there and check it out. I'm not trying to throw shade. I'm just saying that I personally was a little bit disappointed. Don't overdo it, start slow. I recommend you stay in the same country for at least 1 month. And by at least, I mean this is the absolute minimum. Better is 3 months or more. Here's why. During the week, you're gonna be exhausted from work. Just like here now, there's not really much of a difference, which basically leaves you with the weekends to explore. But then you also need a rest day, which means realistically, if you don't want to burn yourself out, you have 1 day a week to explore and sightsee. If you stay somewhere for a month, that's 4 days. A lot of people confuse working remotely with a holiday, and that is where they burn out or they end up disappointed. I had to learn this the hard way because I was moving way too fast in the beginning. Here's what you can expect to happen during the week. After work, you either relax at home, watch a movie, whatever you usually do to wind down. Maybe you go for a run or a walk or you swim. You can go watch the sunset or go for dinner and some drinks somewhere. But that's it. The fun, exploring kind of stuff needs to happen exclusively on your days off, or else you're going to be stressed and it's all going to become too much very quickly. You also need to understand that it always takes a while to get settled. It will take you a few days to find the right co-working space, find places that have fast internet if you're working from coffee shops. Sometimes accommodations have crappy internet, even if they advertised on their booking site that their internet is fast. Maybe you're not comfortable at your accommodation for other reasons. It might be too loud at night and you need to move to a different place. The first few days and sometimes even weeks until you get settled and know your way around can be pretty exhausting, and on top of that, you need to get work done as well. Don't bring too much stuff with you. In fact, try to be as minimalistic as you possibly can. I'm quite proud because I managed to downsize my luggage to only traveling with carry-on, which has made my life so much easier. And it's also a lot cheaper because most of the time I don't have to pay for checked-in luggage. Some inexpensive airlines are a little bit sneaky though and only allow one personal item on their flights for free, and then obviously you need to pay for a carry-on trolley. However, it's usually not as expensive as a 20-kilo bag. I filmed a whole separate video about how I essentially fit my life into a carry-on, so go check that one out if you think that packing could potentially be an issue for you. Get insurance. In a lot of cases, if you leave your home country for more than 6 months, you're not eligible to receive healthcare from them anymore. So please make sure you do have insurance for the time you spend abroad. You never know what happens. Even if it's just a minor injury you want to go get checked out at the hospital, it's always more relaxing to know that you're covered. I personally use SafetyWing. They offer 2 different products. One is a regular travel insurance and the other one is a complete health insurance for digital nomads. You should definitely check them out if you're planning to start your digital nomad journey. I will link them down below. Do a test run. If you're already allowed or able to work remotely, why don't you do a test run? This doesn't have to be anything far away or for a longer period of time. You could just go to a neighboring country or maybe even stay in your own country and just go to a different city and work from there for 2 or 3 weeks. During this time, you will get a better feel if you could see yourself doing this again, maybe next time a little bit longer. You can ease yourself into becoming a digital nomad. This is not something that needs to happen all of a sudden. Take your time and play around with it and see how you feel. If you can't try this out right now and you're still unsure whether the digital nomad lifestyle is something for you, here's what I want you to do. Look up digital nomad meetings in your city right now, and then go to a meetup and talk to the digital nomads there. Ask them all your questions, tell them about your doubts, and I guarantee you these conversations will help you decide if this is something you could see yourself doing or not. On top of that, you will already know digital nomads in person who you can reach out to if you have any more questions or even meet up with them in a different country. Being able to explore the world as a digital nomad is a certain privilege. Please keep in mind that us digital nomads have the responsibility to respect the people and cultures in the countries we're traveling to. It is well known that because digital nomads often earn money in currencies that are stronger than a lot of the currencies of the countries we choose to stay in the long run, that will ramp up prices and make life more expensive for the locals, along many other problems that come with globalization. Because of that, I think that it's important, no matter where you go, to support local businesses and organizations, show some respect and gratitude towards the people, and remember that this is not just your playground. Those were all of my tips and tricks. If you found this video helpful, please let me know in the comment section. This makes it a lot easier for me to know if you guys like this type of content. Again, if you have any questions, let me know and I'll be happy to answer them. Anyways, I hope you're having an amazing day and see you soon. Bye!